This is Google Slides for Beginners, the complete course. In this video, I will teach you everything you need to know to get started using Google Slides effectively. This is going to be fun. Let's get started. And first, what is Google Slides? Google Slides is a slideshow software program that's web-based, and it enables us to create presentations and other types of slideshows. In many ways, it's similar to Microsoft PowerPoint. In fact, it's one of the foremost competitors to Microsoft PowerPoint. But like I mentioned, it is web-based. In other words, you don't need to install anything on your computer to use Google Slides. And in this first segment of Google Slides for Beginners, the complete course, I want to focus on accessing Google Slides and creating new presentations, and then also understanding the Google Slides layout. There are a couple of different ways that you can access Google Slides. One of the most common is you can go to just about any Google product, even just google.com, and make sure that you're signed in. If you're not, you could click in the upper right to get signed in. Once you're signed in, you can click on the Google Apps symbol, and you can browse down until you find Slides, and just click there, and you'll be taken to Google Slides, where you can create a blank presentation, or you can access one of your older presentations, or you could even use one of the pre-made templates. So that's one of the ways to get into Google Slides. Just use this Google Apps button. I want to share with you, though, two other fantastic ways to access Google Slides. First, let's look at going to Google Drive. So there are several Google products that are all kind of managed and organized within something called Google Drive. And you can get to it by going to drive.google.com. If you haven't already done so, I highly recommend you watch my video on that topic. Just go to my channel and do a search for Google Drive, and you can learn all about it. But once you're in Google Drive, to access Google Slides and create a new Google slideshow, you can just click here in the upper left on New, and then choose Google Slides, and it takes you in to a brand new Google slideshow. I do want to share one other fantastic way to begin a new slideshow, and this may be the fastest of all options. I'll just click here to open a new tab. To create a brand new slideshow, all I really have to do is here in the address bar, type slides.new. Tap enter, and a brand new, fresh slideshow appears. Great. So regardless of how you begin a new slideshow, once you're in Google Slides and have a brand new slideshow ready to be edited, it's important to know and understand the Google Slides layout. And if you're familiar with PowerPoint, some of this will look familiar and some will not, unless you used PowerPoint a couple of decades ago, in like 2004. And the reason I say that is Microsoft PowerPoint has changed from a menu system like we have here in Google Slides, and now uses a tab and ribbon layout. And so PowerPoint doesn't really look like this anymore, at least here at the top. Google Slides, though, continues to use a menu system. And let's take a look at those menus. We have the File menu, where we can go to create a new presentation, to open an old presentation. We can make copies of our presentations. We can do a page setup, and we will look at many of these options throughout the rest of this course. We also have an Edit menu with some great options, including Find and Replace, which is very helpful. We also have Undo and Redo. We have a View menu for zooming in or going to full screen, and there are other great options here too. One of the most important menus is the Insert menu. There's all sorts of wonderful things we can insert into our PowerPoint presentations, and we'll look at some of those later. We have some formatting options in the Format menu. We have a Slide menu that we can use to change the theme, change the background color, etc. We do also have an Arrange menu for organizing different elements on a particular slide. We have some tools that can help us to build our presentations, for example, spell check and dictionary, etc. We also have an extensions menu where you can put in some add-ons, and then we have the Help menu. Underneath the various menus, we have the toolbar. And the toolbar has some of our most commonly used tools in Google Slides. A lot of these are formatting buttons and options, but we also have the Undo and Redo, we have Print, and a few other commonly used features. Here at the right, I have a list of templates that I can choose to use or not. And if I click here on Theme, notice that the panel at the right changes and now is showing themes that I can choose from. And so this panel at the right will shift and change depending on what you click on or what options you're considering. We also have some tools here in the upper right. Some of the most important tools in Google Slides are found here in the Share button, and I want to save that for later in the video so you can learn how to share your slideshows. To the left of that, we have the Slideshow button. If you click that, the slideshow begins. Right now I have just a completely blank slideshow, so there's nothing to see there. But next to that slideshow button, we have a drop-down arrow that gives us even more options. We have a button here to join a call or to present to people that are not here with me using some of Google's other tools. I also have the ability to see comments from other colleagues of mine that may be working on this document with me. And then finally, there is a revision history here that I can click on to see all of the changes in this document, when they were made, who made them, and I can even go back to a previous version of this document. Now there's one other tool that I skipped, and that is this, Ask Gemini. Now you may not have access to Ask Gemini quite yet, but once you do, it's like having an AI assistant helping you as you build your slideshows. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the menus and the layout of all the tools and options, and there is one other area to be aware of. Here at the far right, I have quick access to other tools that Google provides. For example, my Google Drive, my Google Photos, stock images, and more. Okay, now that we've talked about all of those tools and features all surrounding Google Slides, let's focus on really the heart of Google Slides. Right here in the middle, we have our first slide. And corresponding to this slide is a thumbnail that I have here at the left. So this small thumbnail is a representation of this big slide that I'm working on. Eventually, I will add a second slide and it will have a corresponding second thumbnail. Okay, the last layout item that you need to be aware of is down here, speaker notes. As you build your slideshows and as you present them to others, if you want to have some notes that only you can see, you can click here at the bottom of the screen and type those notes. So I can take some notes maybe on what my hopes are for this presentation, what are my plans, but I could also put in notes or an outline about how I want to explain this when I'm teaching using this presentation. Now that I have a plan for what I'm going to create, I think I'll go ahead and name this slideshow. Here in the upper left, I'll just click where it says Untitled Presentation, and I'll call this Spanish Fruits and Veggies. Tap Enter, and my slideshow now has a title. Now, not only does it have a title, but it's automatically been saved. I can see here in the upper left, there's a cloud symbol with a check mark. That's telling me that I have successfully saved this presentation without doing anything. It just automatically saved to the web. And that's how Google Slides works. If you are connected to the internet, it will constantly be saving your work. And that's what this little icon indicates to me, that all changes have been saved and will continue to be saved as long as I'm connected to the internet. In this next segment of Google Slides for Beginners, the complete course, I'm going to teach you how to do some basic content editing on your slides, and then also how to add additional slides into your slideshow. First, the basic editing. Fortunately, Google Slides kind of coaches me on how to begin creating my slideshow. It says click to add title. So I'll click there, and once again, I'll put in my title. If I want to, I can click to add a subtitle, something like that, and my slideshow is starting to take shape. Now, before I go too much further into my slideshow, it's probably a good idea to choose a theme. In most cases, you'll want to select a theme so that your slides have a little more personality, a little more color than just black and white. And if you recall from earlier, I got this panel here at the right that says Themes by clicking here on Theme here on the toolbar. So now I can click on any one of these themes to try it out and see how it looks, and I can decide which one I want to go with. I kind of like this one, so I think I'll stick with that. And now I can resume building my slideshow. Okay, for now, I'm done with slide number 1. It's time now to work on slide number 2. So how do I get that second slide? There's more than one way to do this, and that's one of the things I like about Google Tools is in many cases there are 2 or 3 or 4 ways to do the same thing. So you can pick the method that you like best. I could go up here to the upper left and click on this plus sign to create a new slide, and it appears, and notice that it has the same theme as my original slide. The colors are a little different, but that's because it's not the title slide. But still, the design and the colors fit with my first slide. And now that I have 2 slides, you can see how it works. I have thumbnails here at the left that I can click on, and whichever thumbnail I click on, that slide will be shown front and center, nice and big, so that I can edit it. Similar to the title slide, I can just follow the coaching that's on the slide itself. So I'll click to add a title, and I'm just typing this out. Once you're done typing, you may be tempted to tap enter, but in Google Slides, sometimes that's not the best thing to do. If I tap enter, look what happens. The cursor moves down a little bit, but I'm still in this text box. It's expecting me to continue typing in there. So I'm going to tap backspace to get rid of that, and instead of tapping enter or return on a keyboard, I'll just click away, and my edits for the title of this slide take effect. So now I can click to add text to go on this slide. So I can just click and type out an example of a Spanish fruit. Now, the tradition in Microsoft PowerPoint and also in other slideshow programs like Google Slides is to use bullets or numbering. So here on the toolbar, I can turn on bullets or turn them off, turn on numbering, turn it off. Whatever you prefer is fine. I'm going to stick with bullets. And now after I type manzana, I can tap enter on the keyboard and type the next fruit in Spanish. As I work on this slideshow using bullets, if I need a sub-bullet, that's okay. I can just tap tab and the bullet will scoot over to the right and its appearance changes somewhat, and then I can type underneath the prior item. So far in this video, I've taught you the layout in Google Slides. We've looked at the different tools and buttons and options, and now I've shown you how to create and edit a couple of slides in Google Slides. In this next segment of Google Slides for Beginners, the complete course, you'll learn how to insert objects like images, videos, shapes, and more. And speaking of images, I wish I would have added an image here on my first slide. So I've clicked here on the thumbnail for slide number 1, and now I get a big version of that slide here in the center, and I'd like to add an image. So I'm going to go up here to the menu bar and select Insert and Image, and several different options appear that I could use to insert images. I could upload an image from my computer. Let's say I already have an image of some fruits and vegetables. I could just click there, navigate my computer, find the image, and upload it. If I don't already have the image, I could go here to Stock and Web and then just do a search. So I'll type in fruits and veggies, and I get some great stock images that I can click on to add to my slideshow. In addition to the stock images, we have animated GIFs. I think I'll add this one. And we also have stickers, and the stickers are also animated. One of the main differences between GIFs and stickers is the stickers typically don't have a rectangular background. Instead, they have a transparent background. So I'll click on this one. You can see the difference. So I think I'll click back here on my first animated GIF, and I'll tap delete to remove it. Now, once you've added an image or an animated GIF into your slideshow, there are several things you can do to make them appear the way you want them to be. For example, I can click and drag to move an image or an animated GIF. I can also click on the image and use the corners to resize the image. And there's also a little handle here at the top center that I can click on and drag to rotate the images if I want to. I'm going to hold Control and tap Z a couple of times to undo those changes. On a Mac computer, you could hold Command and tap Z to undo those changes. Next, I want you to see another edit that you can make to animated GIFs or images or almost anything else that you add into your slideshow that's visual in nature. Let's say I like this animated GIF or sticker, but I wish it didn't say choose healthy food. Nothing against that. That's just not the point of this slideshow. So how could I get rid of that? So that you can see this better, I'm going to first increase the size of that sticker, and then I'm just going to double click on it, And notice what happens. I get some extra handles around the edges of my sticker, and they are black handles. So I want to select the bottom center black handle, and I'll click on it and hold the click, and then I'm just going to drag up to get rid of choose healthy food. I release the mouse button, and then if I click away from the sticker, look what happens. I have effectively cropped this animated sticker. And like I said, you can do that with images. Just double click on the image, and then you can use the black handles to crop the image the way you want to. Once you've done so, just click away, and your changes will go into effect. A couple other things you may want to know about inserted images include the fact that you can now remove the background out of your images. Now, this feature may require AI, so if you don't have Ask Gemini in the upper right corner, you may not have access to this quite yet. But if I right-click on this image and choose Remove Background, look what happens. It's going to get rid of that white rectangular background, and now this image is more like a sticker in a way. In addition to adding images, by going to Insert, Image, Stock and Web, you can also tap into your Google Drive account and your Google Photos account to bring in images that are stored there. And I could just click on a particular image to add it. Now, this image was pulled from my Google Drive account, but if I switch to Google Photos here, it'll pull in images from Google Photos. Now, if you're not familiar with Google Drive or Google Photos, please watch my other videos on those great and powerful services. In addition to those options that I've already shared, notice that you can activate your webcam and then take a photo of yourself or whatever you put in front of your laptop or desktop computer that has a webcam. You could also copy-paste the URL or web address of an image. Just click here, copy-paste in the URL of the image that you want, and it will be pulled from the internet right onto your slide. Now, there's one other option for inserting images that is for Gemini users only. If you have Gemini in your Google Slides account, you can do this. You would just go up here to Insert, Image, and choose Generate an Image. And here you can just describe the image you want to be created. So I would like a photo of an apple and a banana. The apple is at the left and the banana is at the right. Next, I decide if it's going to be a square image, a widescreen image, or a tall image. I would like wide. And finally, I choose a style. Do I want this to be photography or artwork? I'm going to go with photography. I click create, and it's going to take a few seconds, but Google Slides is going to create the image I've asked for. It may not be perfect, but in most cases, it's very usable. So it's done, and here I get 4 options to choose from. I think I like this the best, so I'll click on it, and it's added into my slideshow. A custom photo created by artificial intelligence just for me in this slideshow. Now, if I really like it and want to include it, I do also have to click this insert button, and there it is in my slide. Just like the other photos I've inserted into my slideshow, I can resize it, I can rotate it if I want to, and I can also right-click to remove the background. And I think I'll move it up here next to the words that describe these 2 items. So we have some wonderful options for inserting images into Google Slides. Although, in some cases, instead of using this menu, what I do is I just go to Google or some other source where there are images that I want to collect and use. And here in Google, notice that you can select Tools, Usage Rights, and select Creative Commons licenses. These are images that are meant to be shared. And I could select an image, right-click on it, and choose Copy Image, and then back in my slideshow, I can simply paste the image. Edit, Paste, or Control-V to paste. Now keep in mind, Google Slides is a visual medium. It's meant to convey images, ideas, thoughts, but not so much text. It's good and fine to have a small amount of text or even a moderate amount of text, but if your slides are mostly full of words, you're not using Google Slides effectively. So in addition to images, what else can we insert onto our slides? Let's move on to videos. If I click on Insert and choose Video, I get some great options for this. 2 main options, really. One is Google Drive. If I have a video that I've already uploaded into my Google Drive account. For example, there's one here in this folder. I can click on that video and click Insert, and it's added into my Google slide. Now, what if you don't already have a video that you want in your Google Drive? In that case, when you click Insert Video, Google Drive, you're just not going to find anything there. So again, please watch my other video on Google Drive. It's called Google Drive for Beginners, the complete course. In that video, you'll learn how to work in Google Drive, including how to upload files like videos into your Google Drive account. And once they are there, you can insert those videos right into your slides. We also have, when we go to Insert Video, we have a direct connection to YouTube. So I can search YouTube or copy paste in the URL for a specific video. In my case, I just want a video about the Spanish fruits. So I do a search, and several options appear. And let's say I like this one the best. I'll just click on it, click Insert, and it's added as a video in my slideshow. Just like with the images, I can resize the video, I can move it. Now that I have the video in the slide and it's the size I want it to be and in the location I want it to be, with the video selected, notice what I have over here, format options. And these are very important whenever you insert videos into your slideshows. By default, this particular video will play when I click or when I advance the slideshow. If I want to change that, I can have the video play automatically. As soon as I get to this slide, the video will start playing. And a third option is play manual. If that's selected, when I start my slideshow, nothing's going to happen until I click the play button. So let's try these out, and this will give me an opportunity to also teach you how to actually play your slideshow. So I'm going to switch this to play on click. If I'm ready to either test out my slideshow or maybe it's time to teach this information, all I have to do is go up here to the upper right and click on slideshow, and my slideshow begins. I'm going to tap escape to get out of that because I want you to see that if you click this drop down arrow, instead of just starting from the current slide, you can choose start from beginning. So I'll click there. There's my first slide, my title slide. I may want to edit this a little more. It's a little busy, but now I'll advance the slideshow. In Google Slides, you can do that in a number of ways. You can tap spacebar, or you can use the arrow keys. So I could tap the right arrow to advance, left arrow to go back. You can also click. So if I use the mouse button and left click, it advances the slideshow. And then there's another way to advance your slides in Google Slides, and that is to buy a presenter remote. And most serious presenters, teachers, lecturers, or anyone else using Google Slides or PowerPoint, they end up buying a presenter remote. It's just so much more convenient and comfortable as the presenter to not be tethered to your keyboard. If you want some recommendations for presenter remotes, look in the description below this video. But my all-time favorite presenter remote is the Logitech Spotlight remote. It's a little pricey, but wow, what a wonderful, powerful remote this is. Okay, but regardless of however you advance the slide, you get to slide number 2, and here's the video I recently added. How do I make this play? If you recall, I left it set to be play on click. And by on click, it just means when you advance the slide. So I'm going to use the right arrow key on the keyboard.
Las frutas.
And the video starts playing. Okay, let's look at the other options. I'm going to tap escape on the keyboard to get out of presenter view. And now I'll click on my video and switch it from on click to play automatically. And this time I'm going to click here on my first thumbnail for my first slide, and I'll click slideshow. When I advance the slides, in this case, I'll tap spacebar to do so. My video begins right away. And then the third option, like I mentioned, would be to click manually on the play button. Okay, in addition to images and videos, we also have shapes. So I can click Insert Shape, and there's a variety of shapes I can add to this slideshow. Once I've chosen the shape, I just click and drag on the slide to draw out the shape that I want. And then with the shape selected, I can go up here to the toolbar and I can change the fill color for the shape and also the border color if I want to. I can also use this tool here to change the border weight. In other words, the thickness of the border of the shape. Once I've drawn out a shape, it's basically like an image. I can rotate it with the rotate handle. I can make it smaller or bigger. and I can move it. Now notice, as you click and drag on these handles, the shape can get distorted. I'm going to hold Control and tap Z a few times to get back to its original shape, because I want you to see, if you want to resize a shape, but you want it to keep the exact same proportions that it currently has, all you have to do is hold the Shift key while you click and drag to resize it. So I can make it very small, but it's exactly proportional to how it was at the beginning. Because I held the Shift key, it doesn't distort the image. Once you have a shape on a slide, you can double click on that shape to turn it into a text box. In other words, I can now type inside this shape. There are other things we can insert into our slides, including things like building blocks. Building blocks are lists or statistics, quotes, headlines, and more. I'm just going to click the undo button here at the upper left to get rid of that list. We can also insert lines and word art. Once you click word art, you can just put in some text, tap enter, and the word is put there in a way that looks kind of artistic. Now at this point, I have 3 different visuals on my slide, in addition to the text. And notice, as I bring them closer together, there are definitely some of these elements in front of others, and there are others that are behind the other visual elements. So how do we determine what goes in front of what? So if I would like the apple and the banana to be at the very front, look what I can do. I can select the apple and the banana, and then go to the Arrange menu at the top and select Order, Bring to Front. And notice that there is a keyboard shortcut for this. But if I click Bring to Front, it is now at the very front of this stack of visual elements. Now there was another option I could have chosen. Instead of saying Bring to Front, I could have said Bring Forward. So let's look at that. At this point, I could send this image back 1 layer, or I could send it all the way to the back. So let's try 1 layer. Clicking on the banana and the apple, I just go to Arrange, Order, Send Backward. So now it's behind my shape, but in front of my video. But the other option would be to send it all the way to the back. Another thing we can do with the Arrange menu is we can select on an element, whether it be a video or an image, and then go to Arrange and choose to center it on the page either horizontally or vertically. I want it to be horizontally centered, but if I also want it to be vertically centered, I certainly could. But those Arrange tools really will come in handy as you design and create your Google Slides. In this next segment of Google Slides for Beginners, the complete course, we're going to look at refining your presentation. And that's going to include a little bit on backgrounds, slide orientation, and also things like transitions. So I've already shown you themes. If I click away from this shape that I have selected, I can go here to Theme, and I chose this blue and white theme. But at any time, I can change my mind and just choose a different theme, and my entire slideshow is updated to reflect the new theme. I'm going to go back to the one I liked originally. I'll just use this undo button a couple of times to get back. Now, there may be times when, yes, you want a specific theme, but maybe you want one of the slides to have its own distinct background. In those cases, you can right-click on the slide background and choose Change Background. At that point, you can select a background color. So I could make this purple, or I could choose a specific image. Maybe I'll search Google Images for a cornucopia. Let's say I like this one. I can click on it and choose Insert, and that image becomes my background just for this particular slide. I can click Done, and it's there. The next skill that you need in this segment on refining your slideshows is how to set up the slide orientation. By default, Google Slideshows are horizontal in nature. They're in landscape format. But if I go here to File, I can go here to Page Setup, and I can switch to either, let's say, standard, click apply, or I could go in here and change it to be custom. Maybe I want it to be 8.5 in width and 11 inches tall. click Apply, and now I have a vertical slideshow. I'm going to undo that with Control-Z, but it's important to know that you can change the dimensions of your slideshow. Next, let's look at transitions. By default, when I start my slideshow and I advance from one slide to the next, there is no transition. It just immediately jumps to the next slide. If you want a more elegant transition between slides, just click on one of your slides and then here on the toolbar, choose Transition, and you can browse through the list of transitions. Now in PowerPoint, you have maybe 100 different transitions to choose from, or 50, but in Google Slides, we just have 7. You could choose something subtle and classy like fade or dissolve. Let's try that out. I can just click play and it shows the fade. I'll click stop to get back into edit mode, but we also have more dramatic transitions to use if we want to. Cube or flip are examples of that. So I'll go with flip and I'll click play and you can see what happens. The slide flips as it transitions. I'll click stop, and I also want you to see cube. This is a very popular one. And here it is. It's playing. Similar to flip in some ways. I've clicked stop to get back into edit mode. Let's say that cube is what I want. I want it for all of my slides. I can just click this button to apply to all slides. And now let's try my slideshow. I'll use the arrow keys or my mouse button to advance. And there's slide 2, there's slide 3. The transition looks great. I'll tap Escape to get back into edit mode. Another refinement you may want to add to some of your presentations or slideshows is slide timing. When you play a slideshow, it is possible to have the slides automatically advance after a certain number of seconds. To set that up, each time you play your slideshow, you would need to go here to the lower left corner and click on these 3 dots that will appear when you put your mouse down there, and then select autoplay every maybe 3 seconds. You may also want your slideshow to loop at the end. Let's say you're going to have an open house at a school and you want a slideshow to be playing while you, as the teacher, let's say, you meet parents, you talk to parents about their students, you welcome people, but you want this slideshow to just keep playing over and over in the background. That's a great example of when you would want it to loop, when you would want it to advance the slides automatically and loop. So I'll just click play, and after 3 seconds, it advances, and then it advances again. So those are some important Google Slideshow refinements to keep in mind as you build your slideshows. In this final segment of Google Slides for Beginners, the complete course, we're going to focus on collaboration, sharing, and publishing your slideshows. At the beginning of this video, I talked about the layout in Google Slides, and I mentioned that this share button is one of the most important tools that we have in Google Slides, and it really is. If you click on share, you get a dialog box that pops up, and you can use this to add specific people to a slideshow. I could put a message here to this person, letting them know that I'm sharing this with them. In many cases, though, I've found when I share slideshows with friends or colleagues, they never get this message. I don't know if they just can't find it or what it is. So it's a good idea to put a little message there, but don't count on them ever really seeing that. You might need to talk to them in person or send them a separate email. Once you've added them here, notice that it gives them certain rights. So you need to be aware of what rights you're granting. Do you want them just to be able to see the slideshow? If so, make them a viewer. If you want them to comment, make them a commenter. Or if you want them to actually be an editor along with you on this slideshow, then select editor and then just click send. In addition to adding specific people or groups, let's say you have a mailing list, you could add the whole mailing list to this slideshow. But another option is to switch from general access restricted to anyone with the link. If you do this and set this to be viewer, you can then copy the link and send it out, and anyone that gets that link will be able to click on it and see your slideshow. They won't be able to edit your slideshow. They could copy it, though, into their own account. So just be aware of that. They can copy it, duplicate it, basically, but they won't be able to edit your work unless you put editor here at the right. Once you've done that, again, you'll need to copy that link and share it out with people in some way. Maybe you post it in your learning management system or on your blog, or on Facebook or something, or just email it out to people. Now, if you add anyone as an editor or make it so that everyone can edit, either way, once you click done, they will be able to make changes and you can simultaneously work on your slideshow. So for example, I could be working here on slide number 2 while someone else is working on slide number 3. So very quickly, a small team can produce a very complex and beautiful looking Google slideshow. As you're working with others on your presentation, you may want to turn on comments here at the top, and you could add a specific comment or question, and then your collaborators will be able to see your comment. They'll be able to respond or check it off saying, okay, I've looked at that and I have made some changes, and so they can resolve the comment at that point. Okay, let's say that I'm completely done with this fantastic slideshow and I'm ready to publish it for the world. Yes, I could just show the slideshow in person, or I could share it online. But there are other ways I could publish. I could click here on File and choose to download it. I could download this Google slideshow as a real official Microsoft PowerPoint presentation. So that's powerful, especially if you're sending it to someone that mostly uses Microsoft Office, Microsoft PowerPoint. That's a great option. If you want to publish it more broadly to people that maybe don't have Microsoft products and don't use Google Slides, you could choose this, PDF document. So it's going to download this slideshow as a PDF, and PDFs are accessible for pretty much everyone. And they'll be able to then click from slide to slide. It doesn't work as a slideshow when it's a PDF, but you can still get the gist of the material by clicking through the various pages. I'm going to go back into my slideshow because one of the best publishing options can be found here in the File menu. You go to File, Share, Publish to the Web. And this will make my Google slideshow visible to anyone on the internet, but not in edit mode, but rather in presentation mode. Now, before doing this, it is a good idea to make sure that you've gone into the share settings and set it to be anyone with the link. And I'm going to switch it from editor to viewer. So that's what you're going to want. Anyone with the link, viewer. Click done, and then back here in File and Share, Publish to the web. Next, you need to think about how many seconds do you want each slide to be on the screen. I want to make sure that people are able to really see each slide and take in the information. So maybe 10 seconds or 15 seconds. If that's too long, they'll be able to manually advance the slide as well. Next, I can make it so it starts the slideshow as soon as the player loads, and I can also make it so the slideshow loops. It restarts after the last slide. I think I'm ready to click Publish. It says, are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. So I click OK, and there's my link to my Google slideshow. I'll copy that, click Close, and now if I send that to someone and they click the link, it will take them not into my editing mode, but right to the presentation mode. And they'll be able to use the arrow keys if they want to, or the space bar, or a mouse click to advance to the next slide. If they don't advance it, it will automatically advance after 10 or 15 seconds, whatever you set. So at this point, you have learned everything you need to know to begin effectively using Google Slides. Whether you're a teacher or a student or a business person, a manager, anyone that needs to present in front of a group, Google Slides is a fantastic tool to help you do so. And personally, I love the fact that it is natively online. You don't have to upload it or jump through any hoops to share it with other people. It just resides on the internet. It's an online presentation. And so when you do need to share it, it just very easily and naturally is shareable. And then you can also present online and others can see it online. So it's a great tool. Now, I'll admit, I've used PowerPoint for much longer than I've used Google Slides. I really love PowerPoint. It's a wonderful tool, but Google Slides is also fantastic, and I use it all the time as well. Now that you've mastered the basics of Google Slides, what should you learn next? I would highly recommend watching my videos on Google Sheets and Google Docs, as well as Google Drive. If you watch all of those, you will really have a wonderful understanding of Google's suite of creative tools. And beyond those, it may make sense for you to also watch Microsoft PowerPoint for Beginners, the complete course. And I also have an intermediate complete course for PowerPoint. That way, regardless of the system that your school or your business uses, whether it's Microsoft or Google, you will be able to be a slideshow presentation master. In the meantime, thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it to be helpful. If you did, please like, follow, and subscribe. And when you do, click the bell and you'll be notified when I post another video. If you'd like to support my channel, the best way to do that is to become a channel member. But you could also click the thanks button below the video. You could support me through my Patreon account or by buying channel merch, and you'll see more information about those options in the description below the video.